Hello and welcome. This is Tammy Braswell of Create by Vibration, and I invite you to come in and have a seat with me, chat with me, experience life differently with me. We are divine beings, and this experience of life is an opportunity for us to see ourselves as that divine being through the human experience. But our conditioning that began in childhood has led us to believe that we are separate. That's what this contrast offers. Separation from who we already are, who we know ourselves to be, and who we come to a place of remembering at different points in our life. And I have been experiencing spirits, energy, experiences that I couldn't fully explain and didn't even talk about since I was a small child. I can remember all the way back to 4 years old. I'm now in my 50s, and so it's been a lifelong journey of understanding the meaning of things, translating the energy that has come through me, the divine wisdom that expresses itself in different ways. And where I'm at right now is desiring conversations such as this so that we can expand our perspective, really bring meaning to concepts that are shared, words that are used and thrown around. That's how I see it. Many words are just randomly thrown out there. Maybe not randomly. They're used in context, but not understood. And that's different when you use a word and don't understand the full meaning of it. And so I've been shown more and more, energetically, divinely, the way to look at these terms and these experiences from a divine truth perspective so that we can understand ourselves even more so than we have up till now, and from our divinity. And what I see in the world is many words like awakening and grounded and ascension, and there are so many. Our power, standing in our power, taking back our power, that more and more I inquire with all that is, with Source, through my connection that I've had throughout my entire life. I went directly to Source for all my questions. When I was a child and I was experiencing the things I was experiencing, I wasn't thinking about guides or angels or anything like that. I think they are all frequencies of Source that we tune into that give us levels of comfort and understanding and that we can relate to. But I wasn't aware of those. So I went straight to Source, to God, because that's what I understood it as when I was a child. So I had many, many conversations with God throughout my life until Source. I shifted the name to Source, taking out the religion aspect of what God meant or was perceived as, and started to communicate differently with all that is. And that's what it referred to itself as with me, is all that is. Because it is all that is. And so with that higher connection, one where it can actually speak through me, utilizing my voice so I can hear it and others can hear it, just as if anyone is talking. I came to understand things at an even higher level than I had before. And all that has invited me to share divine perspectives so that we can have a broader view, a source level view of life, of what's going on in life, of who we are in life. And then we can experience it differently, experience it from the higher perspectives, from the divine part of ourself, the expanded part of ourself. And we can choose differently in life. That the old conditioning, the way that we were told to be, to experience life, the things to have, the way to show up, what was acceptable, we can see through that. And again, here's another word that people like to use, the illusion of life. It is an illusion to a degree, but if we don't help our human to understand what these words mean, then illusion is an illusion in itself because it doesn't have any meaning behind it. It's just a term. It's just a word, just like so many of the words that are used. So I've really started being in conversation with all that is about these terms, these words, what they mean for us. And of course, I'm going to bring myself to this place so that I can understand, because until we really understand something ourselves, we're not fully able to share it with others. We're only sharing the parts that we understand, and then it keeps being diluted as it's thrown out into the masses. And what's interesting is, if you want to think about it, there was a game, and I don't know the actual name of the game, but it was where you'd have a circle of people. One person would begin and whisper something to the person, say, on their left. It would go all the way around the circle, and by the time it came back to the person who first said it, it wasn't the same bit of information. Now, isn't that interesting that in even a small circle of people, and maybe that was something that was created, not consciously, but was created to show us how quickly what we share, or what is shared, can be altered through the perception of others, through their level of understanding. And it would come back around, and I played the game, and I'd be like, I didn't say that. I didn't say it that way. That's not the meaning of it. Even when I write things, I used to write articles for a holistic magazine, a new age magazine. And the editor would write or edit my articles and want to write them from a very clinical perspective. Well, what that would do is take the frequency meaning out of the article. And at one point I said, well, if you publish the article that way with all those edits, don't put my name on it, because it's no longer the message, the vibrational message that I was conveying. And that happens so often, that words are just used in ways that they're missing the depth of their meaning, of the frequency that lies within them. And they're just being used randomly, like I said. Here's a word, plug it in, it sounds good. Like the word power. I started to delve into that one because so many people use it. And it was like, I couldn't grasp, truly. And I feel I'm at a high frequency level of understanding. It's especially with the connection I have with all that is and what it shares with me, is that here we are using a word telling us to take it back, to claim it, to not give it away, that people can take it from us, that we have to stand in it. And it wasn't making sense. Like, how do you do those things if you don't understand what they are? Anything in life. How do you fix a car if you don't understand the mechanics of the car? I mean, you could start taking things apart and then see how that goes. You can now watch videos because somebody's created a video that says, okay, here's this. Here's how you do it. I mean, I've done that. I've repaired things because someone else had a video on how to do it. But that's the thing. We look outside ourselves for the answer because we don't understand how to do it internally. And yes, there are things within us that are there, but experiencing them from an outward place to start will help us to expand into what's already within us. I don't believe we learn anything. Learning implies to me that that information didn't exist for us before, and someone's imparting information that we can now do something with. What I believe and what I've come to understand is that it's already within us. We could all learn, if you want to use that term, to be a brain surgeon, but would we all have the desire within us to be a brain surgeon, or even the heightened skill? I believe that is more specific to certain people. It's more unique to certain people. They have a desire for it, just like any of us have a desire for our highest expression through different forms that others may not have. Athletes who excel, that is the divine expression of themselves at a level that, somebody else could play the game and it would be okay, but it doesn't have the same desire behind it, the same passion behind it. And that's okay for us because that is part of what makes us unique. So we're not all here to do the exact same things or to be the same person as everyone else. That's why we're individuated aspects of Source, so that we can express it individually through our own understandings, through our own uniqueness. But what is coming through as the message that I want to share here is that it's important or significant. There are words, I'm very specific about words that I use. Important implies a decided significance to something. But I want for this to be about you deciding the significance for you. So it's significant. It is for us to turn inward, to not listen to all the noise that's out there. I don't want for what I'm sharing to be noise. In the business world, in the energetic, spiritual coaching spaces that I've been in for years, because that is what you could identify my business as. There is a lot of noise of saying, do things this way or that way, and this is the only way, or even it becoming, well, this isn't the only way, but this is the best way. I believe it's individual for each of us. It is what resonates and what we come from, the frequencies that are true for us, rather than listening to all the noise. So I want this to not be noise for you, but to be reflection, for contemplation, for a higher perspective, But everything is within you. Now, even though everything is within you, and that's what you tap into, it also is to be turned on. And what I mean by that is activated, to be lit up for you to see more clearly. And that happens depending on the frequency you're in. We really couldn't have everything activated at once because it would be overwhelming. And trust me, I receive a lot of downloads, divine downloads, information from all that is, from Source, that I have been able to integrate into myself, but not always been able to immediately articulate or translate or share with others in a more cohesive way. So it stays with me before I can share it. But I can say that when I receive a lot of it at once, it can feel overwhelming. Not in the way that most people feel overwhelmed, like a panic overwhelm. It's just a lot at one time, and I have to allow it to integrate. So I believe that and I understand, when I say I believe, it's more of an understanding, but understand that at different frequencies, then different aspects of ourselves can be activated, can be turned on. I see it like a board with a bunch of light switches. And the light switch can be flipped on when we get to that frequency that matches the light switch. And then it opens us up to a higher understanding, to more information, to parts of ourselves that we hadn't accessed fully yet. And so there's a lot of noise out there that tells us to do things, and that part of us hasn't really been activated quite yet. And something interesting about us living in this physical world is that we do search for expansion. That is part of us. It's not because anything is lacking. It's because it's a natural expression of expansion for us to search for what is next. There are two forms of searching for what is next. There's the low frequency and the high frequency. The low frequency comes from feeling of lack. This is the contrast. So when we feel a lack of something, not enoughness in our life, not enough money, not enough love, not enough health, not enough something, then we will go searching from that level. And from that level, what I found is that you don't really find the answer, or you look to others to fix it. So you want somebody to give you the answer. That will just make whatever it is go away. And that can come in a pill. That can come in somebody saying, I have this answer. If you do A, B, and C, you'll get this result. And I'm sure that you've experienced in your life where you've done the A, B, C and didn't get the result that the person said, because it was from the frequency of the lack side. Now, searching from the higher side is desiring expansion, which we are created for. Source expands all the time. Our soul expands through our experiences in the physical. So it is about expansion. Higher expansion is a desire for more, to experience more, but not from the view that there is something missing or something that needs fixed. It's just, I want to experience more. And a lot of the spiritual culture is based in the low frequency searching, or even more so seeking, like looking for something that you don't already have so that it provides you with something you don't already have. Higher searching is almost like if you sent out feelers to see what direction you want to go or where something is. And it makes me, as I'm saying this, I see images, and the image is a cat. Cats have whiskers so that they can put their head in places to sense how tight the space is. It's like they're sensors on their face. And even if you watch bugs, they'll do that. They'll put their, legs out or their antenna and touch around to feel like what's in the vicinity before they step into it. Because if their feelers, antenna, tell them that there's not something there that needs to be there, they won't go that direction. They'll back up. That's how nature is created to know where to go. It doesn't work 100% of the time. Sometimes they'll, I watch the squirrels outside and they do some crazy things, and but it's for us too. That searching is like sending out the feelers and that's energetic. Where do we want to go? And then we get to a place or more of a frequency. I won't say a place. Sometimes a place is more of a physical location. Sometimes it is a physical location, but it's more into feeling into the next frequencies that we have access to, the higher frequencies. We're always moving, to me, upward in frequency. We can move downward. Frequency feels more like an up and a down. It's more vertical because frequencies increase. And the more that they increase, the more expansion that happens, the more opening that happens, the more lightness that happens, more elevation that happens. And so the space becomes larger for more information, experiences to come in. And what we're really being invited to do right now, or to be right now as well, being is the inner, doing is the outer. So who we're being invited to be right now is more of ourself from the inner part of ourself. So to not be seeking from that lower place of outer fixing or outer correction or outer validation. It's inner. And the more that we go inner, then we're going to have more light switches available to flip on and be activated and experience more of ourselves. And I've explored this for years, and elements of it that showed themselves to me, that Source allowed me to understand, are things like trust, self-trust. Over the years, I've watched as so many, and even at times myself, would say I trust Source, but then I didn't trust my own decisions. I was allowing myself to be influenced by outer circumstances, by other people telling me, well, this is the way to do something, particularly in my business. I'll reference it that way. Not as much in my life, but more so in my business. Well, this is the way you have to do business. This is the way you have to show up. This is what you have to share. This is how you do it. And it didn't feel aligned for me. It didn't resonate. But I would see that person and go, okay, well, they've had some success, so it must mean that what they're doing is accurate. So let me attempt to do that. And at this point in life, what I'm being shown and shared by all that is that it is truly about frequency, and that it is about me. It is about me really tuning into what feels most alive within me, what feels most aligned with the highest experience I want to have within me. And I want to invite you to tune into that for yourself as well. And so trust. We often have or want to have trust for others, or through experiences, we decide we don't trust others. We want to trust Source to show up, to provide for us. And it does. It provides us with the experiences for us to choose what we want to experience. It provides us with the possibilities that are available. I like to say the options. But if we don't really trust ourselves, which we aren't conditioned to trust ourselves, we're conditioned to look outside of ourselves and listen to what's going on out there. And it's still happening, the noise in the world. And it's fear-based, it's controlling-based. But when you trust yourself, and that's where trust begins, it isn't for Source first, because that's why so many people, even though they say they trust Source, will look at their life and say, things aren't happening that I want to have happen, so, where is Source? What's going on? But that self-trust, when you can trust yourself, stop listening to all the noise, the outside world telling you who to be, what to do, how to think, and then stimulating emotions that keep being perpetuated as experiences because they're being determined by outer experiences over inner knowing. And when you can start to really trust yourself and make decisions from that, then you can feel into who you want to trust outside of yourself. And it is easier to trust Source, because that self-trust is you connecting with Source and then trusting that Source shows up. It supports you. It's always there for you. And that was a big understanding for me. I always had it. I really, truly did. But to understand it, even just when something is very easy for us to experience, or we want to say very natural for us, we don't always understand how it functions from behind just being part of what we do or part of who we are. So when we can understand it better, really understand like the mechanics of it, the parts of it, we live with it differently, because then we can choose it in a more confident way, in a more clear way. So trust was like that, not just for me, but in the way I could help others experience it, guide others into experiencing it for themselves. The same with love and appreciation, divine love and appreciation. Love is more of a concept that we have. And actually there's aspects to love which are interesting. We see it as an emotion. It's an understanding. Because sometimes people don't really feel love, but their actions will be loving. So you can feel from a person like not an emotional state, but the things that they're doing reflect a level of care, of compassion, of kindness. So that could be perceived as love. And I believe that being in love isn't just with another person. It's with ourself, which is primary, but it's also with our life and with the extensions of the experiences within our life, even the things within our life. I'm in love with my vehicle. And so to me, energetically, my vehicle is 20 plus years old. And I'm not using old as in old. It's just age-wise. But it functions for me amazingly, better than I think a lot of the newer vehicles. And I love it. And I care for it as an extension of that love even for myself. A lot that goes on in the world, harmful things, are because we are conditioned out of loving ourselves. We're again told, look outside ourselves, love others, give to others first. But then the story always comes back to the mask, the oxygen mask on an airplane. If we're on an airplane and the oxygen masks drop, we don't start looking at who we can put the mask on. We put it on ourselves first, because we can't help anyone else if we're the one laying there dying or in trauma or whatever's happening. So we're told in those instances, put it on yourself first. But in most of life, we're told, do everything outside of yourself first. And so we're literally conditioned. So people attempt to control other people when they don't even know how to be in charge of their own emotions, thoughts, experiences for themselves. And so when you come back to that love and appreciation for yourself, which my understanding is they are very high frequency, Source itself is love. It's beyond what we can conceive as human love, because it's divine, unconditional love that comes through Source, meaning that there is nothing that any of us can do, say, be, that it still doesn't love us. It's not moody. It doesn't decide that, if we don't live up to something, that it won't love us anymore, or that we're not good enough for it. Because in this understanding, then you start to recognize that you're always worthy. You're always deserving. And I don't even want to just say you're always enough, because you're even more than enough. Enough is like a baseline. Source perceives you well beyond that. You are magnificent. You're amazing. You're fabulous. You're spectacular. I mean, you're words that are beyond just enoughness. But all of that is already built into you. Yet we go searching and seeking it from that lower frequency perspective of not enoughness, that something's missing. We lack that. And I'll say throughout the years that those were focuses of mine as well, but having those be focuses at different times allowed me to now come to the place that I'm at, or the frequency that I'm in, to have this higher understanding that those are inherently part of us. They're just there. We don't have to decide we're worthy. We are always worthy. So it's not something we even have to consider. Same thing with deserving or being loved. Humans don't always love each other, but Source always loves us. And it's about us loving ourselves and accepting ourselves, because that's when we walk this earth in a different way than we're conditioned to do so. With all the understanding I have now, the way I go out into the world is different. The way I look at other people is different. The way I feel about them. And I have to say that I go into places and everyone's always accommodating. They're always helpful. I don't have resistance from anybody out in the world. They're all willing to assist me. And that's because I'm showing up in that love, in that appreciation for myself first. Again, it has to be ourselves first. I've come to truly know that. I had to step away from this conversation for a moment because of one of my Amazon units decided in another whole room to start having a conversation with me. Not sure how she even heard what I was talking about. But it's coming to understand that it's primary for us to be in love with ourselves, to appreciate ourselves, to trust ourselves. And then when we go out into the world, we can view others that way. It's all from overflow. We literally have been taught and conditioned to experience life from depletion, from not enoughness, from, I think of gas tanks riding on fumes. A cell phone will stop working if there's not enough battery life in it. But we walk around in life from not enough battery life, not enough power level to be in that place for ourselves. And then we attempt to share that in ways that you just don't have enough to give. But then we're told that we have to give. So there's a lot of misunderstanding out in the world. So when you can trust yourself, then you can trust Source more clearly, and you can trust others. And you can feel when trust isn't there. And I really live in a way that I trust everyone until they show me that there's a reason not to trust them. Because I trust myself. And I trust myself first to decide whether what they're sharing with me feels aligned with me or it feels out of alignment with me. And I can love myself enough. Let me remove that word. I can love myself so much that, and I'm in love with myself so much that I can clearly recognize when something is not for me. Now, it's been even more so the last few years. And it's come from me understanding that trust more, understanding that love more, understanding that appreciation more, those higher frequencies of it. And also that connection I have with Source that I equate it to when we're in the womb. We're in that fluid, the amniotic fluid. We're curled up in that safe space. Even if chaos is going on in our parents' lives or our mother's life, because that could be another aspect of things. But overall, we're in this safe space. We're held in this fluid. We're being nourished. And we come into the world, or we start to form in this world, in the physical world, in that space. Now, if we go back to that kind of feeling, or find that feeling again, we can feel more solid in this human experience, because our human is... My train of thought took a little detour because I have several of those Amazon units, and for whatever reason, it's about frequency. They all started talking at different times in different rooms that I'm not even in, and I didn't say their names, so I had to take a moment to go put them all on not listening mode so I can have this conversation without them interjecting strange things or playing music or turning something on. I do appreciate them for turning on and off lights and electronics and answering things and playing music that I can dance throughout my home. But they are quite interesting when I'm sharing things frequency-wise, because it activates them. It's always interesting to know if other people experience that too. But returning to where I was at, let me find my way back to that. So that feeling of being in the womb. So what I've come to know is our human is a significant aspect of ourselves, right? We are in this human experience, but oftentimes we start to, or we become aware of higher aspects of ourselves, and then we want to put the human over to the side or on the back burner. And it does require us to pay attention to it and incorporate and integrate it into the fullness of the experiences, even when they're spiritually based. This is the vessel through which we are having the human experience. For the senses, for the thoughts, for the emotions within this contrasting world. This is why we're here, to have these experiences within these aspects of ourselves, and with the ability to decide through choice what we want to experience. So coming to a place where we can feel that comfort, that safety is important to our human. The more safe our human feels, then it's more apt to flow easily with whatever it is that we are experiencing. And what happens oftentimes with and in spiritual community or development is that the teachings or the concepts want to push the human aside. It's get rid of your ego, somehow suppress your ego. Well, I just see it as the human part of us. And the human part of us is what brings the desires to life. It's where our passion comes from. It's where our drive comes from. Because our soul and the expanded part of ourselves knows that everything is wonderful all the time. We're divine, we're perfect. Everything will always be for our highest experience, even when from the human it doesn't appear that way. But our human needs the safety aspect. Am I okay here? And so it goes looking for that. That's why we'll feel, and people will say, well, your ego, shuts it down or holds you back, only out of keeping the human safe. That fear aspect of us was only meant to be a discernment of, are you in danger in this particular situation? It really wasn't meant to be something that overwhelms our system. And now we're at a place where our conditioning has us being in fear over almost everything. And fear is used in ways to get us to do things, to stop us from doing things. And then that becomes the primary basis of fear. Now, again, it's discernment. If we go back to caveman period, fear was be discerning about walking outside the cave in case the saber-toothed tiger is there and it eats you. That's the discernment. That we can actually think that in a conscious way. We don't just live on instinct. We have the ability to reason, to say, what will the outcome be of this decision I'm making? And that's the point. Not to just be always in fear. We panic if we can't find our keys or our phone or something. Our systems are always at this heightened level of ready for, the severity of something. So when we can be in that space of feeling that comfort, that safety that's held by source, that is that divine feeling, then we are coming from a different frequency. It's not one of based in panic or, worst case scenario. It's let's look at this and decide what we're going to do right in this moment. And then it's not a fear, say, of the future, but it is about being discerning about what comes off of this moment. So what could come next? What I found energetically, because I feel how energy will move, or the possibility that in the direction of the stream of a frequency that I in particular am making choices from. I can feel into it for others as well. But that's how I make choices in my life, is basing them upon what does the frequency feel like it could produce from this point. That's the cause and effect understanding. For every choice, there is a consequence, and not consequences in, something undesirable. It's just a result or an outcome that comes from that choice. And so many in our conditioning have come to a place where they don't always think about what comes from a choice. They just make a choice and then, oh, now look what happened. And then they're in a panic mode of trying to figure out. And those are two primary words, trying and figuring on their own, how to correct it or change it or do something with it. So they're not really in that divine flow. I call it the EAC, which I originally saw on the Finding Nemo movie. It's called the Eastern Australian Current. And if you've ever seen that movie, the turtle or tortoise, I don't remember what it was exactly, the surfer, tortoise, turtle, would hop into the EAC, which was this flow stream, and it would take it places more quickly and easily. So now I call it the energetically aligned current. One that when you hop into it, it flows and takes you wherever with more ease. And it's a higher frequency. It's not going to happen if you're in a lower frequency because there isn't as much flow. Lower frequencies become more constrictive feeling. Higher frequencies have an ease of flow. And we do go through a spectrum of frequencies within ourselves, and the lowest frequency shifts, but that's another conversation that I won't go into depth here. But when we can really tune into that, what I call divine enfolding space, where we feel like Source is holding us again in that kind of womb feeling, it brings comfort, relief to our system, to our human system that is in fear-based mode a lot of the time. That's why people love to meditate or to find those calming places, because it quiets that part of ourselves. And we can live from that. Mine is not in that distress anymore. Not to say it wasn't when I was younger. Even being tuned in, I went through and lived through these experiences so I could understand them at this point. So I could really have a reference point, a lived experience of them. So they made sense. And I could be like, oh yeah, okay, I can relate to that because I've lived through it. And what I realize is that we don't have to hold on to any of that stuff. That's what creates the repetitive trauma in experiences that have happened or ones that feel similar, because our system just keeps replaying that because it never found peace in it. It never found a fullness in the experience of it. We didn't process through the emotions all the way. We didn't move through it in the fullness. So it's like incomplete. So it just sits there kind of playing in that incompleteness. And then we have other experiences that are similar, and then they feel incomplete. We want to be living in the fullness of who we are, of our divinity, of that being expressed in the world through our human experiences, through our human understanding. And when we can feel into that trust, that divine level trust within ourselves, and then the one that we can have with Source, that brings a level of comfort. When we can be in that womb feeling space with Source, that comforting feeling, that safe feeling, our human systems settle down. They feel calmer. They feel relief. They feel more present. When we can be in that divine level of love and appreciation for ourselves and then for everything, the way that we move through this world is different. And I've come to know all of this through my own experiences, through my interactions with others, through even what others have shown me that I could understand myself better. And that's what I want to invite you to do, is to understand yourself better. It's not that I'm giving you an answer to anything, but what I'm offering is an invitation for you to be with yourself, to ask yourself, are you experiencing these levels of trust, of love, of appreciation, of feeling held in safety and comfort with Source? And an aspect of that is to really calibrate your energy so that it feels like there's a central alignment. When we are out of that central alignment, like that real, I see it as a visual, so it's the energy running straight up and down through you, through your chakra system, through your energy centers, and those are reflected in, our nervous system, in the physical. When that really feels aligned, it feels together, like everything is clicked together. There is a calmness within you. There is a peace within you. And then I found that it is easier to then tune into that trust within yourself, the love and the appreciation within and for yourself. And then to be more connected, consciously connected and open with Source energy, because you're an extension of Source energy, Source consciousness. When we can really find that point where our human and the energetic expanded part of ourselves feels in resonance with each other, because we can expand energetically and then our body feels like it's not caught up. Even when I'm conversing like this, there's a lot of energy moving through my body. I twitch. There's even sometimes some discomfort. I joke with Source sometimes that this, even just being a channel for this information, can bring discomfort to my human form until it gets settled or connected more with the frequency that I'm communicating from. And it's a process of calibrating to the frequency so that you stay in a more centered, connected feeling place within yourself. And that's that central location within you, your heart, your gut, your abdomen, your throat, your I'll say third eye, but that place in your forehead where it feels like you're connected. Just really allowing it all to move real freely through you. These all come together and function together to bring you to a place of true alignment. Highest alignment. I want to point that out because just using the word alignment, anything that we're experiencing is in alignment with the frequency of that experience, whether it's something we want or don't want, like or dislike. So when I talk from the highest alignment, it means that it's more of a choice alignment, a resonance, because we can say, well, I'm out of alignment. Well, what you're out of alignment with is more so what you believe that you desire to experience than what you are experiencing, but you are in alignment with what you're experiencing. So I'm conscious of the way that I word that because, again, it's about the understanding of words. When people just say, well, you want to be in alignment. Alignment of what? Of what? It's the what behind the alignment, because whatever you're experiencing right now is what you're in alignment with. So if that's not what you want to be in alignment with, you're really out of alignment with what you want more so than out of alignment with what you don't want. And everything is just for reference. That's all it is. A want and a don't want is just for reference so that you can decide what direction you want to go in. What do you desire to experience? And there's one more energy that I want to talk about right now is that, and it's referenced a lot, is ancestral energy. The energy that comes down through our generational line, through our family line, that we just function from. But that's part of the conditioning. Because if you go to your parents and you say, well, this was the conditioning that you set up for me, they'll be like, what are you talking about? Well, that's just how I was raised. That's what I believed, and that is true. What our parents impart upon us is just their understanding of life. And that came to them through their parents. Because with many clients over the years, the shifts that I've assisted them in experiencing, we started to look at, well, what was life like with your parents? And then do you know what your parents were like, in their growing up? And so it's just energy that moves down through our family line, through our ancestors. And, our soul chose the family to come into for the experiences it wanted us to have, or to contribute to our experiences and the choices that we would make throughout our life. It didn't determine what those would be, but if we came into this family or with these parents, then it's going to be something in this realm. And what's interesting is, let's say someone is adopted. So they're born into a particular family line and still have the energy from that family line, from that ancestry, but can be raised in another space of conditioning. So they can still hold those things. I mean, it's even seen with, let's say, a child who never meets one parent to have mannerisms of that parent, sometimes very specific. If you've ever watched the movie Forrest Gump, and when Forrest, I don't want to spoiler, I think most people have seen the movie, is that when he finds out he has his son, who is Haley Joel Osment, and they sit down on the floor watching this show, and they both tilt their head the same way. Now, if the little boy was never around Forrest, he wouldn't have seen that Forrest did that. But isn't it interesting that it's still somewhere in the energy that comes through that he would have that mannerism? And I've seen that before. Knowing a parent and knowing a child and the two not having interaction, that I've seen actually mannerisms such as that, which is interesting. And there's a lot of hype around it and watching, being aware of it and clearing it. And it's just realizing that you're bringing that energy to an ending, to a completion point. But you have to become aware of it as well, because things will just continue. Energy, streams of energy, don't have opinions. They don't stop because the energy itself thinks, oh, I should stop now. It is our choice. So when a stream of energy has an intention, whatever that is, whether it was a conscious intention or an unconscious intention, or even if it was a conscious intention, but the intention wasn't to the place where someone would know that stream would exist for evermore until it was brought to completion, that when you become aware of that, then you can shift it. But until then, it just keeps running. A river or a stream or a body of water will run until, say, they put a dam in it so that it blocks it, or a levee or whatever that stops it from running the way it's always been running. But it will just continue. That's what energy does. But energy isn't thought based like we think from human perspective, that it doesn't go, I've run, like this is the stream talking, I've run long enough, I'm just going to stop now. It just keeps going because that's the way energy is. So when we become aware of something, we can say, wait a minute, do I want to continue this belief system? Do I want to continue this pattern? And then we can decide to choose differently if we want to. And we're being invited, because a lot of the streams that are still flowing, that are being carried or held, are outdated, heavier experiences that we recognize we want to be different, but we don't realize that where they're coming from. So when we can identify an originating point, then we can say, all right, I want to experience that differently now. And it sends waves back through where it began and out in all directions from us. It's like this imaginary blast of change that happens. And so thinking about all of these, the trust, the love and appreciation, the being held, the energy calibrating, the ancestral frequencies and streams that continue to run, these are all being brought forth for us to bring them into a higher elevated space of living from them, of experiencing them. And I've been feeling into this message, wanting to come through. But whenever I receive any kind of message, or the beginning of the message, because I'm channeling the information that comes through in union with all that is, in co-creation and collaboration with all that is, I start to feel into it, and I start to recognize it. And over the years, I have actually created energetic, guided experiences for all of these, or more so for each of them, because they were showing up. They were showing up for me, and they wanted more clarity and more understanding. And same thing for clients. I would experience things with clients that would bring forth a greater understanding for me, so that I could share that understanding. Because again, so much is just said and thrown around, and they're concepts that don't have a real, like if somebody said, what does that mean? People will come up with an answer, but most of the time, to me, energetically, it's just not real deep or solid in its understanding. And so then we're functioning from places that are not at the level that we can, but it's about getting to the place where, again, those things can be activated within us at a frequency we've gotten to, that we can say, oh, I can see that now. And I know that anyone who listens to what I share does so at a higher level. This is an energetic transmission. It's a frequency transmission, that it isn't just the words I'm saying. It's what's moving energetically while you're listening to this, while you're receiving the message. And if you listen to it over and over, you will receive different levels of understanding, different levels of insight, of wisdom within yourself. It'll be activated. What I'm sharing here is about inviting you to have it be more within yourself. I'm not here to fix anything for you, or to give you an answer per se. I'm here to show you that you have it within you to experience this now. And so, in the details of this that will be with this audio, I'm going to share with you the opportunity to experience these different elements and frequencies that I've shared here, to go deeper into them, to master them for yourself. And that's what mastery is. It's coming to a place where you understand something so deeply that you live it in all of your experiences. That's when we really know something, is we live it. It isn't a concept that sounds good or that we think we understand. Because so many, when we talk to people, or even sometimes ourselves, we can say, well, I understand that, but we're not living it. True, deep understanding is that you actually live whatever it is. So if it isn't fully your experience, then it's more of a conceptual understanding than it is a lived understanding. And what I know is we're in a place or an energetic point, because I don't live in time. Sometimes I don't even know what day it is, or I will arrive at places at a focal point if I'm given the focal point to arrive at. Otherwise, I just move in my own ways throughout my existence here. Well, we've come to a point where it's significant that we understand and live our deeper truths. And not just our truths, but overall truths. It's not coming out fully. Divine truths. There are divine truths. And I believe those stay intact, but through our truth, our level of truths, our personal truths, wherever we are frequency-wise, to be able to understand them, because as we expand, our truth changes. I know that mine has. What I believed 10 years ago, not to say I don't still believe it, but I believe it in a more expanded way, or have a more expanded understanding of it. Or even a few years ago, we're in an accelerated period where information is really coming faster. And if we're too much in the physical, in the sense of listening outside ourselves to the noise, then it can feel like a bombardment, and that there actually becomes resistance in our human to whatever that is, because it feels like it's overwhelming. It feels confusing. It feels like too much. But when we can allow ourselves to be more inwardly based, not just sitting in meditation or doing some of these things some of the time, literally living it all the time, in every moment, then as that information comes in, we can be more discerning of it. We can allow it to flow in a way that we can integrate it, that we can understand it, that we can live it. And I know this from my 50 plus years on this planet. So, like I mentioned, in the details around this audio, or with this audio, will be information if you want to have a deeper understanding of what I'm sharing here, and actually utilize it and live it in your own life. So be sure to review that information if this resonates with you. And you're already in this high frequency, or I like to say divine frequency, this divine perspective level, while being here with me, while experiencing this, while receiving what's here for you, and being in this conversation. And I do feel like we're just sitting here connecting, communicating, being in resonance, seeing each other in that divine way. I know that I see the divinity within you. I love you. I appreciate you. I trust that you can feel this too. And I know that my system, both physically and energetically, are in a resonance and a higher alignment, that I can tune into all of this with you, share it with you, see the possibility of it with and for you, and hold a space, a frequency that you can be in anytime to experience this and more for yourself. So I want to thank you for being here with me and for sharing this space with me and being on this journey of life. And I'm sending so much love to you.